tells us that you are here for a reason, and your reason is to learn a language, Spanish in this specific case. But let's dig deeper, and ask ourselves, what is the point of learning a new language? What are the benefits, and what at the end of the day are we going to get in return for investing our time, energy, and resources into learning a language? Because at the end of the day, we all need to have some sort of return in the efforts that we're making if we want to truly sustain our methods. So what we have done, guys, is to identify the top 5 main reasons and benefits that you will get in return for learning a new language. And this is amazing because what we have seen is that, first, all of these are research backed, and these are just the tip of the iceberg, but these are the top 5 highlights and benefits, while there are lists and lists of people or of benefits that you'll get from learning a language. So number 1 is you get the opportunity to improve your career. One of the most exciting things about learning a new language and the world that we live in today is that we are quickly becoming a more globalized world by the second. By that, I mean, by the end of this presentation, we will become a more connected, a more globalized world than when we started this presentation here today. And the reason is because technology and communication, all of these new advancements are allowing us to connect with just about anyone in the world. And what this means is that business to economics to politics to entertainment to the media, everything is becoming a worldwide structure. And whether you own your own business or whether you work for another business, there is absolutely no doubt that companies and organizations are trying to appeal to a global audience. They're trying to reach and expand to out of their local city, out of the local country, to reach the billions of people that are available for their target market. So there's no question about it that, even 10 years ago, we would not have had so many people around our inner circle, around our friends that can that come from a different culture, but also can speak multiple languages. For me personally, I've had the gratitude and the honor of being friends with people from Mexico to Colombia to Argentina and different parts of Europe. And this is something that I could not say 20 years ago, that this could have been so easily facilitated. So to dig deeper is that London, a top recruitment agency out of the UK, says that a foreign language can add between 10 to 15% to your wage. Now that's a huge, huge benefit for any of us that really want to make more money, of course. And for London that have gone through thousands of recruits, this is what they have found, guys, is that because so many companies are valuing people that can communicate and reach and help them grow their businesses, they're willing to pay a premium for bringing these people on. So whether your goal is to learn Spanish, French, German, any of these languages, by adding a foreign language, you simply become more attractable to your potential employers. Sandy, one of our students, says she's been able to increase her business's income by over 18% in the past 6 months because of her ability to now target the Hispanic market, which is something she's never been able to do before. So digging deeper into that, guys, learning a foreign language can simply help you become more marketable. And when you can become more marketable and attractive to potential employers, it simply opens up more opportunities. And more opportunities leads to more freedom in your life. Gives you more freedom to do what you want, how you want it, and when you want it. Whether you want to spend more time with your family, whether you want to go on vacation to that favorite place that you've always wanted to. All of these things eventually lead to having more freedom and control over your own life. The British Chambers of Commerce study says that more than 60% of companies who want to expand to other countries are unable to do so due to these language barriers. Now, as we talked about, the world is becoming more globalized every single second. And if the study was out in 2013, just imagine the world and the number of companies that are trying to expand to other countries today with the advent of social media and communication tools available. So if you want more freedom, if you want to be more attractive to employers and to people that are going to be eventually bringing you on board, there is no better way that I can imagine than learning a foreign language. And this is a huge opportunity that's just waiting for us to capitalize on. Another student of ours, Edson, who's an attorney, says that with over 30% of the US population being Hispanic, he was able to leverage the Spanish he's learned to significantly expand his market in the past months. Now, if you guys are as health conscious as I am, then you'll be luckily thankful to know that learning a language can help you develop better health. And in this specific case, it's your mental health, which may be the most important thing of all, because we can lose almost every portion of our body, but if our brain shuts down, that is the end of our lives. So our brain is the most important part of our entire body, and we must do everything we can to make sure we protect it, for one, but also to make sure that it's focused and that it is at the best shape possible. The American Academy of Neurology says that learning a second language can prevent or delay Alzheimer's and dementia by 4.5 years. This is versus the most powerful drugs in the world, which only delays the disease by 6 to 12 months. So learning a foreign language actually molds and shapes the function of your brain, preventing diseases that are about 4 to 10 times more effective than any pill or anything out there that you can take. And the beautiful part is that the University of Edinburgh found that millions of people around the world acquire their second language later in life. And the main benefits that we can accumulate from bilingualism can happen in adulthood. So if for any of you guys that have doubted learning a language, whether you're old or you think you're too old, you have these limiting beliefs, just remember that most of the people that are still learning languages today and getting these benefits are older, including Sherlock Holmes, who is a polyglot himself and a genius, of course, even though he is a fictional character. Now, deepening relationships is another huge benefit that we must remember. Now, I come from a Korean family where I came to Canada when I was very young. I was about 7 years old, and I completely resonate with this. A lot of you guys listening may have family members, whether it's your grandma or whether it's your spouse's parents and family members that come from a different part of the world, whether it's from Argentina, Colombia, France. And the hard part about communicating and really developing that relationship and that need to lead a healthy and happy family relationship is very difficult. And the number one reason why we can't develop a happier and more connecting relationship with the people that we love in our most lives is language barriers. There is absolutely nothing else that can overcome that, because languages is the window to developing any relationship. It's communication. So I personally relate with this because I would be at the dinner table where my family would be laughing and telling jokes in Korean, and I didn't understand fully exactly what they're talking about. And there was something that really disconnected me with that. And I'm sure my family thought the same way, whether it's my cousins or my uncles, who really took pride in learning the language. And for me not to fulfill that, that was a huge barrier. So for anyone feeling this same disconnection, we have Tamara, who says she's grown up with Spanish-speaking family members her whole life, and she's always felt this disconnection to them due to this language barrier. And because she's learned Spanish, she now feels a much deeper connection with them. Now, travel, of course, is another huge factor when it comes to learning a language and experiencing a travel in a completely different way. So whether you have plans to go to a Spanish-speaking country in the near future, or even any part of the world that speaks a different language, you'll find that because you are able to speak with locals, your travel experience is a completely different one than depending on TripAdvisor or any journalist that gives you the top 10 things to do. And the reason is because if you think about your own local city, there's probably a lot of things that you can share with your friends or people that you are knowing that's going to visit your city that no journalist can tell you, because there are so many insider hotspots and restaurants and amazing places that you just simply can't discover as a journalist, or things that you can't even reveal on the news. So one of our students says that he travels a lot as an entrepreneur, and Tony has been able to save over 20 hours a month just by taking his language learning experience while he is traveling. And this is him looking to learning a language with his coach online right now. And what he used to do was he used to start commuting to meet his teachers in person, spending 30 minutes each way and losing a lot of precious time that he could be using to grow his business, to spend his time working on his hobbies, or most importantly, spending the time with the people that he loves the most. Number 5 is to increase your confidence. If you see the top leaders in the entertainment industry or the politics or the business industry, you'll find that just about everyone speaks a foreign language. And there's no doubt about it that learning a foreign language can help significantly increase your confidence in many side benefits that people, I think, rarely talk about. And the number one is that your native language, whether it's English or Korean like myself or any other language, actually improves when you learn another foreign language, because of the ability to deconstruct sentence structures and many of the words that you're using in that foreign language. So if you want to be like Will Smith, who speaks Spanish, Natalie Portman, who speaks 4 languages, or Mark Zuckerberg, who speaks Mandarin, there's no doubt about it that learning a language can increase your confidence and your likelihood of success in life and your own personal development. So I just named off the 5 important benefits that highlight the reason why most people learn languages and the benefits that get rewarded to them for dedicating their time and energy to learn a language. But most importantly, let's talk about what gets you guys the most excited. What is your purpose for learning a language? What gets you up excited? What gives you goosebumps in the morning or right now as you're listening to this right now and saying, wow, if I could achieve just one of these main benefits by learning a language, this would really make a big impact in my life. Freedom in their life through becoming more marketable through potential employers and increasing your opportunities, or having a completely different travel experience, or maybe it's even increasing your confidence in your own life. And that's the reason why most people learn a language. So let us know in this comment box below, guys, in the Facebook comments below, what gets you the most excited here today. And I'm going to be definitely reading each and every single one of these. And I want you guys to really start sharing with each other what is that one thing that gets you the most exciting, because sharing this really helps you understand the reason why you are doing all of this. Now, I want to share a very quick story of myself and how I've had the honor for being with you guys here today, and eventually, what got us started in this journey. And hopefully some of you guys can even relate to the stories that I'll be telling right now. So a few years ago, I went on this massive backpacking trip in South America, and I visited places like Colombia, Buenos Aires, Argentina. I had the opportunity to go see Machu Picchu, one of the 7 wonders of the world. And I had this amazing life-changing opportunity where I've made amazing friendships and relationships with friends that are from these native-speaking cultures. And before I knew it, I was able to reach a level of fluency in Spanish that I never could have even imagined. And for me to even have a conversation and develop that relationship with people that are from a completely different culture and world, it really astounded me about the power of languages. And I was super committed to go from conversation fluency to fluency as a native speaker. And I was super driven because there was a lot of gaps that I still needed to overcome. But as all travels do, I had to go back to my origin city, which was Toronto, Canada, which is where I was living and working at the time. But I was still so motivated. You know, it may have been sunny and freezing, but I wanted to do everything that I possibly could to get to that conversation fluency level. So the first thing I did was I started going on Facebook and over my phone and reaching out to friends of mine that could potentially learn Spanish with me, but could potentially also help me out through these conversations so that I can actually go and learn with them. It's very similar to the way I would have learned through learning and living in these foreign countries. But little did I know that it was very uncomfortable for some of my friends to be taking their time, and even for me to ask, and maybe some of you guys are the same way, but for me to deliberately ask and for them to spend their time teaching me a language without getting anything in return, it just didn't feel right. And even when I did have friends that were reluctantly agreeing, you know, we just couldn't find that scheduled time to maintain my skills. So I was completely down in the dumps. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I was still so motivated to learn the language. And while I didn't want to go through the traditional approaches, I didn't know what I could do. So I basically follow what 90% of us do when we're trying to first start to learn a language. The first thing I did was I went on Amazon and I typed in "learn Spanish book." And this is actually one of the first books that I got. I still actually have this on my shelf. It's called the Everything Learning Spanish book. Glued a CD, you know, and I've tried Rosetta Stone and even mobile apps that were, you know, had empty promises, really. And really what ended up happening was that all of these solutions were either incredibly boring, they didn't provide any accountability, there was no real life interaction like the way I originally learned and accelerated my skills. It was very time consuming, which I just simply didn't have the time for because I was also working on a professional basis. And at the end of the day, no matter how much time I would spend and invest my energy, my resources, it just was not effective. I didn't have the same result that I wish I had when I went and lived in these foreign countries. And I was slightly confused because I didn't quite understand why so many people were advocating some of these methods without actually you know, having any results for themselves. And I really found out for myself. And it wasn't until I discovered this amazing study by the National Training Institute, which discovered that as humans, it's called the learning pyramid. And what they've learned is that as humans, we remember 5% of what we learn from a lecture. This is a classroom setting. And we only remember 10% of what we learn from reading, such as books, 20% from the audio and visual category, which is online courses, videos, apps, versus on the other side of the spectrum, we have 90% of what we learn when used immediately through immersion. So this was amazing, and it really blew and it really sparked a light bulb in my own brain because I realized that the methods that I was using before versus what I was using in a foreign country was 18 times more effective than the traditional methods that are out there. And with this study, let's talk about how we actually learn today. You know, how 90% of us are still learning how to speak a foreign language. Well, just like the 5% do, it's learning through these language classrooms where we have 20 other students with us with only one teacher, or through the traditional methods like myself, through books, or again, through these mobile apps where you're pushing these buttons to learn the language. So again, 90% of us are still learning a language through these methods. And at the end, what happens is that almost 90% on average of everything that we learn is forgotten, meaning that it goes through one ear and it just simply leaks out the other, which is definitely not the way to go if you want to quickly learn a language, because it basically, in simple terms, it means that everything that we put into our brain using these methods are simply just going to deplete. So what that means is that the money and the resources, and most importantly, the time that we spend is going down the toilet. Tim Ferriss, who is a best-selling author of The 4-Hour Chef and a polyglot himself, says that why do language classes simply not work? And Tim had the opportunity to test the waters with over 20 languages and even achieving conversation and written fluency in 6. And he's identified this cutting-edge research to understand how to cut the time to fluency by 50 to 80%. And what he's realized is that conversation can only be learned by doing. It can't be taught. And the real world is where the mistakes are made, weaknesses are found, and fluency is achieved. So all that is to say, guys, is that even when you're combining the methods of classroom lectures, software apps, or books, that immersion is more powerful than all of these combined. And luckily, immersion, if you guys love meeting new people from different cultures, the beautiful thing about real life immersion is you can meet people from all around the world, develop real friendships, and to really see the world from their own point of view, which is a remarkable thing once you have the experience. So let's get back to the agenda, guys, and let's talk about the 7 proven steps to help you guys learn Spanish today. And I'm going to give you guys some time maybe to take a deep breath and to absorb the first part of the webinar presentation that we just had today. And I do encourage you guys to start interacting with us on these Facebook comments, because as we mentioned, 5% of what we learn from a lecture or through a presentation is remembered for most humans, versus 90% when we're participating, when we're immersing ourselves, and when we're using it immediately. So for you guys to answer the questions as I'm talking is really going to be an incredible benefit for your brain to retain all of this information, because we're going to be spouting out a lot of amazing cutting-edge research that's going to help you significantly shortcut your learning, not just in languages, guys, in anything that you want to learn. All right. So while this is targeted for Spanish very specifically to meet the needs of the listeners here, anything that we talk about today can also be applied to any skill you want to learn, whether it's a new instrument, whether it's a different foreign language, whether it's a new industry that you're entering. And you want to keep this in mind very specifically, at least the high level that we're talking about. So I'm going to go through these extremely fast because I want to be able to fit everything that we have prepared for you guys in this webinar, because I do want to respect your guys' time. So let's talk about the first step, guys, which I think is the cutting edge and the most important foundation for learning anything and for really achieving any success in what we do. And this is what's called the growth mindset. And I would actually say this is the core foundation layer for anything that you want to put on top, right? Just like a pyramid has and can only be stabilized through a base layer that's the strongest and that has the biggest width and length, or a house that's stabilized by pillars and the infrastructure on the base. We want to establish a growth mindset, which is going to help us do anything that we want much faster, and that's what's going to help us really contain the persistency that we need to succeed. And what the first thing is called is the growth mindset. And Carol Dweck, who's a social psychologist at Stanford University, have found that in life, people have two different mindsets, and that's the fixed mindset or the growth mindset. And maybe some of you guys can resonate with the mindset that you have, whether you have experienced a tragic event or an obstacle that have come through your life. You can really see life in two ways, right? And she really established this as the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And the fixed mindset comes from the belief that your qualities and the experiences in your life are carved in stone, that anything happening moving forward is static. So if you have a tragic event or an experience, that she says that you are who you are, period. There's nothing stopping it. Versus a growth mindset comes from the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate, things that you can improve through effort. And while people differ in their aptitude and talents, Carol Dweck has found that people with a growth mindset are, just in terms of statistics, when they've done the research, are more successful, they're much more persistent, and in terms of financial wealth, the people with the growth mindset generate the most amount of income. And the reason is because all of these things are going to happen to us, right? Where if we're learning a language, we're going to lose motivation. We're just human at the end of the day. If we are starting our own business, there's going to be obstacles that are going to come our way. And we can either tell ourselves that this is the beginning of something great, or this is the start of something that is the worst in our life journey. So there's two ways that we can always look at it. And the growth mindset is the mindset that we need to develop. So if you have any limiting beliefs in terms of language, and don't get me wrong here, I think everyone has some limiting beliefs, but these are the most common ones that we've seen from the hundreds of students that have come our way. Number one is, I'm too old to become fluent. How many times have you guys told yourself, whether if you're listening to this, that, you know what, I can learn a language when I was young, but because I'm much older, it's harder for me. I don't have that innate talent in me, and I just feel too old to learn a language. Now that's a limiting belief, but what we've seen from the University of Haifa says that adults can be better language learners than children themselves. And the reason is because adults often have an intuition for unexplained grammar rules better than their younger counterparts. And in fact, because we've learned so many skills through our journey, the older we are, the chances are that you've developed the way that you learn best. You've also learned how to learn skills much faster. Another limiting belief we see a lot is, I've tried learning languages before, but it just didn't work. And I've given up, or the method didn't work. And what we found is that while this can be true, while this event happened, what we found is that the most likely reason why most people didn't learn a language is a method. So we share with you the study from the NTL Institute. So most of us have learned languages through books, or through mobile apps, or through classroom settings, which just simply did not allow us to embrace the number of mistakes that's required to truly become a fluent speaker in a foreign language. This is one thing that you want to keep in mind whenever you're learning anything new. The second one is, we have to understand how we learn best. Someone can spend hours and months trying to listen to a podcast or an audiobook or anything like that, and get literally only 10% out of it, versus if they were to speak with someone and have someone explain it to them in person, they could immediately perceive the same amount of information in half the time. So maybe you guys are better at reading, and this is the way you guys are best read. And the best explanation could be, maybe you like to read physical books versus listening to an audiobook. And maybe you can understand more information through that process. Or maybe you do like audio. Maybe you like listening to music. Maybe that's the way that your brain is best adept to learn. And for most people, of course, is the visual method. It's the real life interactive method, which we have seen from science is one of the best ways for your brain to retain more information. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to understand how you learn best and figure out all the ways that you can learn Spanish and you can learn a language that is best suited for your personality and for the way that your brain is adapted to learn. 3 is using the power of cognates, guys. And this is by far the ultimate shortcut when it comes to learning Spanish and also any other language moving forward. And the reason is that many languages actually share a common root. We've seen that there's thousands of languages around the world, but they all come from a very few number of family roots that originated when they first started. Most of them being what we call the Indo-European family root. So whether it's English, French, Spanish, and Italian, we've seen that all of them come from the Latin root, which means that they really have very big similarities and have been adjusted and refined as time goes by and as people started living in different cultures and different worlds. So what cognates are the different endings to many of the words we use in any language. And I'm going to just give you guys a quick example of what cognates could be. So, of course, number one, we're going to talk about how you can use cognates in Spanish. And what we have seen is that for the endings for T-I-O-N in English, so I'm going to give you some examples like action, nation, solution, communication, all of the words that end with T-I-O-N, you can actually replace T-I-O-N with C-I-O-N in Spanish, and they immediately become Spanish words. Now, how amazing is that if you know this information and know how to use it? Because action becomes acción, nation becomes nación, solution becomes solución, and communication becomes comunicación. So when we know how to conjugate and transfer the cognates and on the words of English, we can immediately get access to thousands of words in Spanish. Because think about the number of words that end with shun in English, right? There's thousands of words that end with shun. And the beautiful part is that this is only one out of the many, many, many cognate translations that are available in English, from English to Spanish. So when we learn the cognates, and I'm going to give you guys another example, English and French is another one. And French is even more unique because for shun, French is actually the exact same word. So any word that ends with shun, now you understand thousands of words in French as well. And this applies to just about any other language. So your goal is to understand the cognates, which is literally the ultimate shortcut if you want to learn languages faster. So what you do is you type in the language name you want to learn and then type in cognates on Google, and you'll immediately get the list of cognates that you are looking to learn. So in this case, it would be Spanish cognates. And another word you can use is Spanish, English, loanwords. So loanwords is just another way of saying cognates. Number 4, guys, is the 8 golden sentences to hack grammar. Now, I believe Tim Ferriss was the first one to really popularize the 8 golden sentences. And what he's done is that he's taken a very simple sentence, probably the most common sentence that we've heard in the language learning industry, which is, I give John the apple. And what we found is that when we directly translate this into Spanish, the sentence structures and the grammar and the vocabulary that we can adapt from these 8 sentences alone, this is why we call it the 8 golden sentences, can help us understand pretty much any sentence structure, any of the frameworks that are included in the Spanish language. So when we can understand, number one, how to directly translate it, and you can work with a Rype coach, you can work with anyone that understands the language and directly translate and then understand the structure of these. So I'll give you a quick example. So number one is, let's say I give John the apple, which is number 3 on the English category. Well, in Spanish, it's le doy la manzana a Juan. And you'll find that instead of it's not Joe, they use Lee, and you'll immediately understand that Lee is just another. It's a pronoun for describing a male person, and this is really important information to know if you want to understand what goes first in a sentence structure, what goes after, and how people can actually structure sentences in Spanish, which is the number one thing that most people get stuck on when they're learning a language. Number 5, guys, a shortcut to learning a language is focusing on situations you know you'll be in when you are actually speaking Spanish. So at the end of the day, I'm assuming most of us are learning Spanish because we want to actually go out and interact with native speaking professionals or native speaking people, whether we're traveling, whether we have a family member, or whether it's going to be something that we use in our own career for business meetings, etc. So the principle that we're really going to be introducing here is called the Pareto's principle. And I won't go into the detail of how Pareto's law came about, but it was through an Italian economist who's realized that in almost anything that we do in our lives, you can relate that 20% of the efforts or the resources or the investments that we make in anything is going to result in 80% of what we get as an end result. So what he's really trying to say in reverse is that 80% of the end results that we have only comes from 20% of the resources. And you can pretty much apply this in any aspect of your life. You know, if you run a business, if you're an entrepreneur, 80% of your sales and profits are going to come from 20% of your products and customers. If you're talking about your own happiness, 80% of your unsatisfaction, unfulfillment, unhappiness is going to come from 20% of your people in your life, whether they're family members, whether you're friends. And same thing with happiness. Only 20% of the people in your life are going to deliver happiness. And the same thing applies for language learning, of course. It's only 20% of solutions or the things that you do that's going to help you get to 80% fluency. So this is the principle, and this is such an important principle to apply, not just in language learning, of course, but in anything that we do. So when it comes to specifying the way we can use this in language learning for Spanish, what we really have to do is understand, okay, so what is the 20% of scenarios, the situations, the settings that we're actually going to be using Spanish for? We can learn how to talk about philosophy. We can learn how to talk about politics in Spanish, but chances are we're only going to be using that 1% of the time, if not never. So we have to understand when we go to a foreign country or when we're talking with someone, what are the 20% of phrases and sentences that are going to be used 80% of the time when we're learning Spanish? And this is really going to give you a major shortcut in your life. So we're just going to give you the top 5 that we have seen, but this, of course, varies from person to person, but we hope that these will help. So number 1 is, well, you don't really understand someone. So how many times have you tried to learn a foreign language, but you don't quite understand what the other person is saying? Well, in Spanish, you say, no entiendo qué significa hora. And hora is just one thing that we have put. But if you don't understand what hora means, which is hour, this is what you can say. The second situation is someone is talking too fast. In Spanish, you can say, puedes repetirlo más despacio. And this is another way of saying, can you repeat that more slowly? This is another way because when you're talking with native speakers, you're going to run into a lot of situations where people are going to talk too fast for you to keep up. The third one is how to say ... in Spanish. If you don't understand how to say something, but you know it in English, and this happens to me way, way too often speaking a foreign language, then you can say como se dice dot 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 in español. Como se dice thank you in español. How do you say this in Spanish? Number 4 is starting a conversation, is breaking the ice. And this is probably something that most of us are uncomfortable with in English just as much for in Spanish. And if this is the case, then you want to be able to actually prepare for some of the things that you want to say. And this is just one example of a typical thing that you can say to break the ice and to start a conversation when you're meeting someone for the first time, which is things like, what type of work are you interested in? ¿Qué tipo de trabajo le interesa hacer? And this is something that you can say to other people when you're meeting them. And of course, this is something we all want to avoid, but is inevitable, which is awkward situations. Now, how many times have you had an awkward situation in your life where you just didn't know what to say? Well, if you thought this was hard in English, imagine how difficult it is to be in Spanish. And you'll find that when you're talking to someone in a foreign language, there will be more awkward situations than you can ever imagine, because you don't understand the culture, you don't understand the different pronunciations. So it's just something that's inevitable, and we do encourage you to embrace it. But what's more important is how you prepare for it. So again, another question that you can ask are things like, what do you do for a living? ¿En qué trabaja? And these are things that you want to be listing out at the end of the day. Now, we can't personalize this for your own situation, but you have more control than ever to do this for your own industry. So whether you are learning a foreign language for business, whether you're learning for your own love of languages or for travel reasons, you can start to customize your vocabulary so that you're learning specific things that you know will be applicable in your own life. So at the end of the day, what we want to avoid is to prevent ourselves from learning the 80% of things that won't really have impact in our lives, the things that we probably won't be using that often. And we want to spend as many times and as many resources and time as possible to focusing on the small, vital things that we're going to be using in the majority of our lives and in Spanish-speaking situations. Now, as a bonus, what we also have is a couple of common responses in Spanish. And the responses are often more important than starting a conversation, because when someone is telling you a story in their language or someone is talking to you, you don't want to just be sitting there and saying, yep, in English, or just really mouthing out the words without really knowing how to respond, because the other person is going to think that you don't really find the story interesting, that you're not really interested in talking with them, or there's just no connection between you two. So sometimes responses are more important. So you want to be able to respond with things like, of course, claro que sí, seriously, en serio, tell me more, cuéntame más, or yeah, bring it on, let's go, which is dale in Spanish. So these are simple things that you can simply use, whether you're working with a Rype coach or whether you're just going out to meet a friend in a foreign country. You should use these words on a frequent basis so that you can keep the conversation lively and interactive. So the 6th step is the simple rule of 50 minutes a day keeps the English away. Now, this is a simple phrase and framework that we've used, or you can use this as 2 hours a week, right? So what we found is that this is the minimum amount of time to be consistent with your language learning skills so that you can continue to maintain your skills that you have, and also for compounded effect. Compounded effect meaning that by learning in small chunks, even if it's for a short amount of time, whether it's 30 minutes or 15 minutes, while it may not show immediately, your skills would quickly and very proficiently expand at a rate that you've never seen before. If you guys know about Moore's Law, about how technology and the cost of technology, I believe, expands in every 18 months, and also the cost of it halves. Same thing applies, same thing with your investments, and the same thing applies for language learning. Now, the key, guys, is how you start learning itself. So if you think about the way you started learning a bicycle bicycle or the way you first learned how to swim. It's pretty simple, right? We didn't learn it through YouTube. We never learned it through a mobile app that, taught us how to ride a bicycle or how to steer a bicycle. We learned it simply by doing. And sure, we fell sometimes or we felt very uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, we learned it through making mistakes, and we learned it through actually taking action. And when you're talking about learning a language, there's no better way than to actually go out and speak with native speakers. Georgetown University Medical Center have found that between two groups, the one that was immersed in a language portrayed actual brain patterns of a native speaker after 5 months, where most of the subjects were adults. So this is amazing information to know, because it shows you that actually being immersed around the surrounding that you have can actually mold the patterns of your brain. It's very similar to the way how Jim Rohn says that you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So if your goal is to truly learn a language, there's no better way to learn it from a native speaker that can help you immerse yourself in Spanish. And it's the same way you're going to go from conversation fluency to mastery, is to start actually immersing yourself. Now, of course, some of us could go and pack up our bags and go live in a foreign country with the desire to learn a language, but not all of us have that luxury. We've got families, friends, work, and we have a life that's in a country, whether you live in the United States, Canada, somewhere in Europe or Australia, that don't permit you to go just and pack up to a Spanish-speaking country or a foreign country. We have our own lives here. So most of us don't have friends that are Spanish speakers. So here are some ways that you can actually start to immerse yourself. So the first thing is you can have an accountability partner. This is the first route that I try to go through. So if you have a friend, if you have a family member that can keep you accountable, preferably someone that's also native speaking person, this is an extremely powerful route to go. The second way could be through language meetups. You could go and actually attend local meetups that will help you to meet like-minded people around your place. Now, there's likely that these are people that are in the similar situations as you that are not native speakers, but this is also a great way to immerse yourself. And the third, and the one method that we personally recommend, is through using the power of technology and communication tools to go through online lessons and practice that helps you actually connect with native speaking professionals that are able to come to your own screen without you having to travel, allowing you to learn at the comforts of your own home, and preferably something that can work on your own schedule. So at the end of the day, these methods are going to help you learn 18 times faster. And that is the true power of being able to immerse yourself, even if it's for small amounts of times a day. So what we recommend is to actually start scheduling your appointments. Kevin Cruz, who studies billionaires like Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, and professional athletes like Michael Jordan, have found that none of these guys use to-do lists, but almost everyone has their schedule. In that a schedule helps you account for the time amount you spent. It allows you to understand what's going on in your day, your week, and your month. So these are the habits of successful people, is to actually start scheduling for the work that you've been doing. And the same thing applies for language lessons. So the 3 golden criteria that we want to keep in touch with, guys, is having accountability, flexible scheduling, and working with the best coaches or working with the best accountability partner to help you get to that next level. Benny Lewis, who is the polyglot and the founder of Fluent in 3 Months, which is the most popular language blog in the world, has said that the only way he reaches spoken fluency is to get a hell of a lot of practice. Now, my last point here, guys, is to find a coach and accountability partner, which is the first thing that guys like Kobe Bryant or Tony Robbins or Bill Clinton have done by finding guys like Tony Robbins or Phil Knight. And the same thing applies to our own lives, I'm sure. All of us have some trainer or some mentor or teacher that have helped us reach our goals. And a good example is a professional personal trainer to help you get in shape and to help you get results. And the reason why this is so important, and the same thing applies for language learning, is that all of us have what's called a training curve. I'm sure you guys can all relate. When you first learn something, you're so excited, your energy is up, and you're thinking, oh my God, I can actually do this. I'm making such great progress in the first month or two, and I actually think this is going to help me advance my skills. Well, what happens is that after a few months, our motivation decreases, our skill level plateaus, and we quickly experience what's this called a downward slope. And it doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete, a billionaire, or regular individuals. This is something that we all face whenever we're learning something new. And through this training curve, we experience multiple emotions, from confusion to depression to crisis. And the pivotal point that all of us go through is that we either have three options. And the three options are: either you can quit, either you can have some partial recovery and, kind of plateau through the rest of your journey, or what people do, and the secret weapons that Kobe Bryant and Bill Clinton have, is to work with a coach, to work with a mentor or teacher that can help them get through this crisis mode into new confidence and even transformation, allowing them to reconstruct and recover and increase the levels at a rate that they've never had before. So if you see this, if you see the training curve from the beginning to the end, you'll notice that at the lowest point of the end downward slope is in fact higher than the highest point of the beginning training curve. So what that means is that you're going to have these downward slopes. It's inevitable. We're all going to face these upward and downward slopes in our journey. But the question is, how can you continue to increase your journey throughout the experience that would allow you to, even at the lowest, in a few months or a few years, allow you to be better off than how you first started at your peak? So a coach has been shown to increase your clarity and focus, give you accountability and motivation, to accelerate your results, which is probably the most important thing for most of us, to give you guidance and a plan of action for those of you guys that don't really know how to get started. And number 5 is to reach your full potential, which I think is the number one thing. So if you guys want to have the results that we've just described, well, the first thing you can do is try to find an accountability partner, as we mentioned. Whether you go through in a conversation exchange, set up a meeting with a friend or family member, or even attend a meetup, finding that accountability partner is the first step. And number 2, for those of you guys that are really committed, and for you guys that are actually looking to get serious results, well, you can find a professional. And there's a few ways you can do this, of course. You can go through Craigslist and find an in-person teacher in your local city. Or if you're busy, if you want the convenience of learning with unlimited lessons, then you can always check out Rype. So the most important thing that I want to leave you guys off here is I want to ask yourself, what are some of the factors that may lead you to quit language learning? And the reason why this is so important is that most of us are surprised and we're actually blindsided when all of these unexpected things come. Whether we lose motivation or something happens, what happens is that when we get surprised, we're not prepared for what's the worst to come. So we want to be able to ask ourselves these questions right now and ask ourselves, what are some of these factors that may lead you to quit eventually? Is it commuting for some of you guys? Is it going to be lack of time, cost, accountability, and motivation? Or is it something else that is eventually going to lead you to quit? And you want to be able to find anything that you can so that you're prepared for when this eventually comes. So what is that one action step forward you guys can take today? And I'm asking this question because it's incredibly important for all of us to understand what we need to do, even if it's a small step today. We talked about how important it is to not just listen and to not just watch and observe something, because that's just not how our brain retains information. That's not how our brain is meant to learn. Versus 90% of retention comes from taking immediate action and immersing ourselves, even if it's a small step. So for some of you guys, it can mean going to and registering for a local meetup that's in your city. Or it could be going out and reaching out to an accountability partner that you think can help you out in your language learning journey. Or for some of you guys, it could be going out and trying out Rype for free today. You get a 14-day free trial, and that could be something that you're also into. So whatever you guys do, I just want to really be able to encourage you guys to take that first step today. It could be super small. It could be very minuscule, but those actions that you take moving forward today, tomorrow, the next week, and the next month, all of this is going to start accumulating, and you are going to have results that you never even imagined you could achieve. So bringing this back, I want to talk about the Pareto's principle, the 20-80 principle that we talked about on number 5, which is that the few vital tasks in our lives, the 20% of the time, the energy, the resources that we spend are what is going to be delivering 80% of the results. So all that means is that we want to avoid doing anything possible that falls into the 80% of the time, resources, and money expended that's only going to give us 20% of results. Because time is the most important thing we can defend. It's the most important commodity we have in our lives. So we don't want to be wasting on the things that is not going to give us results. And ideally, we want to spend 10% of time that's going to give us 90% of results. That would ideally be the golden ticket. So when it comes to language learning, especially Spanish, what we found is that the measure of effectiveness comes from coaching and immersion. These are where 80% of the results that only require 20% of the time and the resources, versus classrooms and settings and programs. They're often the most expensive, that are not nearly as effective. And then you've got apps and books and YouTube, which are the least effective out of the bunch. And when it comes to the average time to reach fluency, the same thing applies. Coaching and immersion have shown that in terms of the results and the shortest time to reach fluency, because of the real life immersion that you have and the personal attention you get, is what's going to come from coaching and immersion. This is what 20% of efforts result in the 80% of your desired results. So at the end of the day, going back to the NTL Institute research, we found that when you're talking about language learning, or really anything we want to learn, the 90% of what we learn when we use it immediately through immersion is what we want to be focusing our attention on to help us learn up to 18 times faster. And what we have done and really have crafted our entire experience on is combining the power of real-life immersion with the effectiveness of professional coaching, and combine this into building an experience and a destination and a product that's going to help people learn languages at a rate that they have never seen before. And this is how we came up with Rype. It's 24/7 Spanish coaching for busy professionals, allowing you to get unlimited private Spanish lessons with professional teachers fit to your busy lifestyle. And there's no better way to actually describe what we offer than our own students. So Claire is one of our students who's a designer at DKNY, says that what Rype offers is so magically simple yet powerful. It's bringing the real life immersive experience of learning a language in a foreign country to your screen. And it's that real life immersive experience. And we didn't come up with the term. Claire is the first one that really introduced this. And it's the reason why we have students like Hannah. And Hannah is actually not just our student, but she's a full-time MBA student at UCLA in Los Angeles. And even though she was with going through exams and had a full-time schedule, Hannah's had the ability to go from zero knowledge to conversation fluency in Spanish in just 3 months. And I believe it was about 3.5 months in Hannah's case. So this is the magic of being able to use the most effective methods and having it around your busy lifestyle. Now, I want to give you guys a quick introduction of what Rype really offers and what it looks like on the back end so that you guys can truly understand how Rype works. And I know I'm giving you guys a high-level context of what Rype offers, but this is an opportunity for you guys to really get inside of how you can start booking lessons on an unlimited basis with 24/7 availability. Now, the first thing I should note is the difference between Rype and pretty much every other method that's out there. Versus language schools that offers 1:8 teacher-student ratio, Rype offers 1:1 teacher-to-student ratio, giving you 100% attention that you deserve. Now, versus the other language learning websites, we offer unlimited lessons, even offering the major benefits of personalized documents and giving you a free trial risk-free. Now, booking a lesson is pretty simple when you enter the Rype coaching platform, and you can simply do this by going to your matched coaches and picking a coach that is your preference and picking a date and a time that you are free. Now, we have tons of availability to match to your schedule, and all you have to do is just enter your information and your lesson is booked. Now, another way that you can also book your lesson, giving you full control over your schedule and your availability, is to book it by your time availability. So you're not dependent on just the availability of your favorite coach, but we allow you to book lessons on demand. And how this works is that you can simply go to schedule by your time availability. And you'll find here is that instead of going to your coaches, we ask you to immediately just pick a time that you're free. And the same process goes where you enter your information and your lesson will immediately be booked. And we, of course, also allow you the option of adding these lessons onto your favorite calendar so you never forget your lesson. And it could be on Google, Outlook. And we also even send you a confirmation of your lesson and even some reminders before your lesson starts, even allowing you to reschedule or cancel your lessons at any time in case you can't make it. Now, at the time of your lesson, your coach is going to reach out to you and you are immediately going to have your experience. If you're busy like most professionals and most people listening to this, then you also have the option of taking your lessons on the go, allowing you to experience lessons even while you're doing something else so that you can truly have on-the-go experience. Now, one of my favorite and the most popular features that we have at Rype is what we call the Rype personalized feedback documents. And really what this is that your coaches are going to record all of the mistakes and errors with corrections, the new materials you learned, and even follow-up assignments and resources that will keep you immersed throughout the week for your next lesson. And last but not least, we have the opportunity to take your learning experience beyond the private lessons by offering you premium Spanish classes that's going to help you not only learn the basics of grammar, accent training, pronunciation, and much more, but we're going to input real life topics that you can use throughout your journey, like how to order at a restaurant or even how to ask someone out on a date. Now, we actually had some videos that we also had for you, but unfortunately, we weren't able to have that just because you guys can only hear me through the mic. But what I do want to do is take this time to answer the most common questions that you guys ask us when you are thinking about trying out Rype for free. So the first question that we get a lot is, how is Rype different from language schools or other language learning websites. While there are so many benefits and differences that Rype offers, we'll share with you the few, and we've already kind of done this, is that the big one is the teacher to student ratio that language schools just do not offer. So we give you one-on-one teacher to student ratio, and unlike the language websites that are out there, we offer unlimited private lessons, giving you on-demand scheduling, personally matchmaking you to the coach, and giving you additional benefits like personalized feedback documents, premium video lessons, and a free trial to help you actually experience what it is like to learn with us as well. And going back to language schools, unlike the academies or the language schools that are out there, well, Rype doesn't have any additional overhead costs. We don't have any admin staffing costs. There's no insurance costs or building costs for that matter. So what the end result is that we have the ability to give you more value for 1/10 of the price, because we simply just don't have the overhead costs that most language schools have. And the result is that because you're not traveling and commuting each way, the time that we save for Rype is unparamount versus what you would be spending on the language schools. So we talked a little bit about this teacher to student ratio, but what's more important is that we actually did an analysis of what language schools offer versus what we offer. And if a language school is to offer the same benefits that we were to offer, the value that you would have to pay is up to 10 times more on a monthly basis versus what the average membership costs for Rype. And this is why our students, like James, says that instead of going to a language school paying over $1,000, he can receive unlimited private one-on-one lessons with his Rype coach for 10% of that price. And the second question is, how will I be billed? Well, very simply, the billing will happen once you have experienced the 14-day trial process, and it will be on a monthly basis. Now, if you ever want to pause, first of all, congratulations. I think everyone deserves the time off. And what Rype offers is to give you the ability and flexibility to pause and hold or freeze your account at any time and allow you to resume it when you are ready to go. Number 4 is, why do you ask for my billing information? This is a question that we get a lot, and we've actually had the opportunity to experiment with both. And we started by not asking for the credit card information, but what we found is that a lot of students weren't as committed. Most of them wouldn't show up for the trial lessons, and they just would not take it as seriously. And our end result at the end of the day, no matter what any advisor or anyone says, is that our dedication is to deliver real results for our students. And that's the main reason why Rype is so powerful than the other methods that are out there. Is the end result is that we give you results. And we found that when we started to ask people for their information up front, even though we don't charge them at all, we found that the students are much more committed, they're much more excited, and at the end of the day, this is the way we're going to be making any decision for a product. And our experience is what will get students better results, what will get them faster results, and this is the way we came to our decision. And number 5 is, I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. What should I do? And I totally understand that the feeling that you have right now, whether it's a feeling of excitement, whether it's maybe you're feeling a little uncomfortable, maybe there's a slight hesitation for you, is that I would ask you to actually try to recall some of the best experiences and some of the best growth moments that you've had in your life. You know, for me, I can totally relate to this. I've had the opportunity to go and book a one-way ticket to go to Buenos Aires. You know, I've had the opportunity to go for my first job interview or to start my own business. And none of those were something where I was 100% sure about, nor was it something that I was extremely, satisfied with. I had two experiences and two emotions. Anytime I've had some of the most game-changing moments in my life. They were slight uncomfortable and fear, and it was excitement that was brewing through my stomach. And those are the two moments. These are how I know personally that it's the right decision to make. It's something that's going to help me get to that next level in my life, whatever that journey is for you, whether it's language learning, whether it's going out and traveling, or whether it's asking that girl or guy out for that date. And those are all things that I think we can all relate with. But most importantly, at the end of the day, we want to be able to understand what the rewards are that we're going to get for the time, the energy, the resources that we're going to be inputting into learning a language. Well, to describe, just like what we talked about, number one, learning the foreign language is going to help you improve your career. You know, if you're 100% satisfied with where your career is, or most importantly, the potential that your career could head towards, then you always want to be, if you're not satisfied, then you always want to be learning new skills. You want to be able to become more marketable so that you can increase the opportunities that you have, where at the end of the day, you're going to have more freedom to do what you want, how you want it, and when you want to do it. Number two is increasing the mental health that you have, whether it's agility, whether it's being able to increase your focus, and most importantly, to prevent yourself from having any of these mental diseases that inevitably enters our lives as we get older. Or if you're like me, maybe it's to deepen the relationships that you have in your life. Family members, friends, your spouse's parents, or your spouse yourself, where you're trying to deepen that relationship and you're trying to build that deeper connection. And as we mentioned, language barrier is the number one thing that people have to still overcome. Number four is traveling the world in a completely different way that you've never traveled before. You know, if you really want to understand the world and the local city from the point of view from the local, there's no better way than to actually start building that relationship by being able to speak with them. And then, as I mentioned, number five is to increase your confidence. There's one thing that I know for sure is that learning Spanish is, or learning French or any language for that matter, is an incredibly valuable skill because you have the power to communicate with people that 99% of your friends are not able to do so. And that comes with a lot of power, that comes with a lot of confidence building to know that you have this special ability that almost hardly any of your friends and the people around you are not able to do so. It's kind of this secret weapon that you have. And that in itself, I believe, in addition to all the things that we've mentioned, can help you significantly increase your own confidence. Now, of course, we do have some testimonials from our own students and some reviews. And one from Tamara who says, to be honest, it seemed almost too good to be true when my friend first told me he was using Rype. And after just 30 days of joining, I can't imagine learning a language any other way. Greg, who is from Sydney, Australia, an entrepreneur himself, says that ultimately what's great about using Rype is that it's incredibly immersive and I can feel myself improving after each lesson. And most importantly, it fits right into his lifestyle schedule, no matter how busy he is during the week. Now, the next story that I'm going to share with you guys, hopefully can resonate with a lot of you guys. Bob says that he's tried everything from Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, italki, and none of them really worked. As a 55-year-old adult, learning a language didn't come easy. If I can do it, so can you. Now, I just want to emphasize that point, right? Because as I mentioned, so many of us have this limiting belief instead of a growth mindset that we're too old to learn a language, that we're not adept to learning a language. We tried it before, it didn't work, whether it was high school Spanish or whether it's university Spanish. And some people just did not have the aptitude to try again. And I think Bob, out of anyone who was a 55-year-old adult, can reach fluency in just a few months, then I think any of us listening can do this as well. Jennifer says that I just didn't have the time or patience with her fast-paced career to try and find a language partner. You guys make it possible for me to learn another language in my own time when I want. Now, we've got hundreds of testimonials. Obviously, we don't have the time to share with all of you guys about this. And before we go and share the free gift that we have for you guys here today, just want you guys to know that we have a special project that we have with one of our partners, Pencils of Promise, and it's called the Giving Back One-to-One project. And it's something that we take true pride of, and it's basically that whatever we learn, whatever we earn as a company, the 1% is going to be donated to building schools for children in need in Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Laos. And also 1% of our time will be going and spending to focus our efforts in helping these children in need out. So whatever you guys decide to do, whether you join our free trial today, know that you guys are doing the world a favor by helping spread education, which is our big vision statement. So are you guys ready to start your language learning journey, where you have the ability to get unlimited private lessons, 24/7 scheduling availability with a customized lesson experience, and much more? So it's time now to reveal our free gift for you guys that have patiently stayed until the end. But I just want you guys to know that this is a special limited time offer that we're offering for today. For those of you guys that are here with us on the webinar and have patiently waited, this is our reward for you guys for investing in your education. And the gift that we have for you guys today is giving you 25% off your first month, which is equivalent to $25 off by using the promo code RYPE25. Now, I just want to mention that this is available for today only. So for those of you guys that are on the fence or even just willing to try this out for free, there's absolutely no risk. It's a 14-day free trial, and you have the ability to get 3 free trial lessons with 3 different coaches, allowing you to really see how impactful this is to get you started on your language learning journey. So this is 25% off using the promo code RYPE25, and you guys can head over to rypeapp.com/FB -special. That's rypeapp.com/FB-special. And this is how you guys can claim your offer. So I see a bunch of you guys that are coming in right now. We've got John from Washington. We've got Cindy from Sydney, Australia. We've got Wendy from Chicago, it looks like. We've got Mike from New York. Who else do we have here? We have Greg Rasmussen. I'm probably saying that wrong. Rasmussen from Vancouver, BC. We've got Cynthia Lau from Toronto. Jeremy from Toronto as well. There's a bunch of you guys coming on. I'm super excited for those of you guys that have decided to come on and join in your journey. I wish I could say all of the names of the people that have come on, but you guys know that you guys are in good hands and that you'll immediately be sent to book your trial lessons. That's the first thing you do. The second step is you'll be starting to personalize your lesson experience, where we'll learn a little bit more about you and understand what you will be looking for, your goals, your needs, so we can actually tailor a personalized lesson plan according to your needs and what you need. And then number 3 is you can start creating your account and joining our membership portal, where you can enjoy unlimited lessons, private lessons that is, with 24/7 availability with the best language coaches around the world. So our coaches are from Argentina, Spain, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, people all around the world, where you have the ability to not only understand the languages and get taught the languages, but really to build a relationship over time. And of course, you have the ability to understand the cultures that are from there as well. So I'm super excited. And there's over 20 of you guys that have joined since I've just started mentioning the names. But unfortunately, we're not going to have the time to mention all of you guys, but just know that you guys are in good hands, and someone from our team is in the process of actually reaching out to you so that you guys will be onboarded. It'll be a one-on-one expert consultation call where they'll learn even more about what your needs are so that we can actually tailor the lesson experience to your needs and to see if there's anything that you need in particular to help you get to that language learning journey. So everyone that's on the call today that wants to try out the free lesson, number one, you'll get a 14-day free trial. You'll get 25% off your first month, and you have the opportunity to speak with one of our expert consultants one-on-one over the phone, where you'll share everything about your needs, everything about your goals, and also your current proficiency level. And you'll get a customized plan that fits just according to what your needs are so that you can accelerate your skills even faster. So that's everything that I just mentioned is going to come for those of you guys that are going to take action today, that want to take advantage of the special offer. And I'm super excited for those of you guys that are going to be joining us. So thank you guys so much for coming on this live presentation. And I know wherever you guys are in the world, whether it's in the evening or morning, there's people in different time zones here, of course. I wish you guys have an amazing night, day, or evening. And if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to send us an email at any time at help@rypeapp.com. And someone from our team is going to come and help you out immediately to address your concerns before you decide to hop over that fence and try it out for free. So again, I do encourage you guys to take some sort of action here today. We talked about the studies that have been shown by not doing anything from this end presentation, and you guys can pretty much do anything that you want, whether it's finding an accountability partner, going out in local meetup, or even downloading a free app that is going to help you to that next level. And of course, we do encourage you guys to try out Rype for free to see if this is right for you. Take some sort of action here today, guys. That's the only thing that I want to leave you guys off here with, because it's amazing that you guys have taken the time to invest in your education here with us today. But without taking some sort of action, all of it is really, it's not worth the time that you guys have spent, because as we've shown you, we only have the ability to remember 5% of what we have learned here today. So for you guys that are truly committed in taking that next action in your life, I do encourage you guys to take some sort of action. And I can't wait to see you guys inside of our community. So thank you guys so much for coming in today. And I hope you have an amazing day. And I really do appreciate you guys to come on here. So hopefully we'll be able to interact with you guys inside of our family. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you guys, and have a good one.